So your area just got hit by a bad storm and you've lost electricity. In most modern homes, that means your furnace isn't working. Do you know what to do to stay warm? If you don't have time to watch this entire video, the thing I want you to take away from it is the easiest thing to do is set yourself up a tent or build yourself a blanket fort. Crawl in and stay warm in there. If you want to know more details and some other ideas to help you stay warm, then hang around. Are you prepared to cook a meal when electricity is off? Can you stay warm in your house when the furnace isn't working? This video series is not about collecting 100,000 rounds of ammo. This series is about being prepared for events that occur every day.
Producing a tornado 3 miles to the north.
Every capable human prepares every day of our lives. We prepare to go to work. We prepare to go to bed. Heck, we even prepare to eat. Being prepared keeps us alive. One of the main things in trying to decide what you need to do to keep yourself warm in your house when your furnace isn't working is evaluating the situation. Is your furnace off for maybe a day while you wait for the repairman to come? Or has a storm knocked down the power lines and it could be days before you get power again? If it's just going to be a few hours, and you know it's just going to be a few hours, putting on your coat, putting on your gloves, you'll probably be fine. But if it's going to be more than that, the best thing you can do to keep yourself warm in your house is to set up your tent. Now, if you don't have a tent, the one thing you can always do is make yourself a blanket fort. Remember doing that as a kid? Do you have any memory of how warm it got in that thing? And keep it away from an exterior wall. An interior room will stay much warmer than one that's on an outside wall of your house. But if you're in a little apartment, you probably don't have much choice. Now, if you actually have a big house and you got several rooms to choose from, I recommend choosing the room to put your tent in that's closest to your kitchen. I wouldn't put it in the kitchen because you'll be wanting to cook in there, but right next to it, whichever room is closest. No, just two.
I'm not for sure, because I'm pretty sure that this is also supposed to be like a window.
There's one major thing to remember when you set up your tent to keep warm in your house. And that is the tent does not magically stay warm inside. There's no way to heat it in here except for you. So if you're not in the tent, it's not warmer than the rest of your house. Tents work by keeping in the body heat from you. Are you warm?
Yeah?
So you ready to live in here for a week?
Yeah!
Also, if it's just one person, you're going to want a lot smaller tent than if you have 3 or 4 people. The more air you're trying to heat with your body, the cooler it will be. So you got to actually spend time in your tent in order to keep it warmer in here than the rest of your house. This tent that I have, I would consider it just a summer tent. It's got mesh inside. The rainfly is really the only other layer you have. It's not a 4-season tent by any means. You want a good 4-season tent if you're trying to stay warm, right? So what can I do to help that? Well, first off, the floor of your living quarters is probably going to get cold. So you might want to rip all the cushions off your couch, grab all the blankets you can, make yourself a nice nest on the floor here. That'll keep you a little bit warmer. Another thing you can do is insulate it better on the outside. Cover it up with a tarp, some more blankets, sheets, anything you can find to add more layers to the outside will keep it warmer in here. There's also another good trick that really helps. Fill up a bunch of containers with water. Just look around your kitchen, look around your house, see what you could fill up with water that you could seal, keep it from spilling, bring it in here. Preferably warm water if you got it. But there again, you may not be able to. If you still have running water, your water heater might have some warm water in it for a while, depending on if it's gas or electric powered. So you could probably fill some containers straight out of the hot tap for a while. 2 things will happen from doing that. One, the warm water, if you can get your hands on warm water, will obviously warm it up in here. And 2, your body heat will actually go into that water. So when you leave the tent, it won't cool off in here near as much. It'll stay more of an even temperature. But you got to be careful doing that because you don't want to spill water all over your tent and have your sleeping quarters being wet. Then you're going to really get cold. Another method for warming water is to set your jug in the sun of a south window. I thought I'd show you today how that works, but as you can see, not much sun coming in today. Something that's really good to do when you're cold is drink something hot. Surely you've noticed on a cold winter morning when your house is a little chilly when you first get up, when you drink your coffee or your hot tea, you feel a lot warmer right after that. And that's because your body temperature actually is a lot warmer. So, since we're talking about a situation here in which you probably don't have electricity, that means you'll need to be getting out your camp stove and making yourself some sort of hot drink. It's really, really worth the time. It'll make you a lot warmer when you get something hot inside of you. However, do not use your camping stove in your tent. There's not enough oxygen in there, and you really don't want to burn down your tent, which would then result in probably burning down your house. Definitely not a good thing. And if the situation really dictates, like if you know you're going to be without electricity for up to a week, maybe even longer, you're probably going to want to have some sort of emergency space heater on hand. You're going to need to evaluate that based on where you live. I live out in the country, and I do lose power at least once every winter. So for me, a backup space heater is a requirement. Some of my friends that live in the city have said they have never lost power more than a few hours a day at the most in the entire time that they've lived in that city. So that's just something you need to evaluate. You know, if you've lived in an area for 10 years and you've only lost electricity once, then is it really worth having a backup heater if you can survive a couple days inside your tent, making some hot drinks and some hot meals on your camp stove? If you're comfortable with that, then do it. My electricity goes off frequent enough and for long enough periods of time that I decided it was wise to put a double throw switch on my furnace. Ask your electrician to do that because, you know, you're messing with mains voltage there. So I got the switch where I can switch it from grid power off or up to inverter. I have it labeled as inverter because I actually have a big inverter on my welding truck. So sometimes I would just run it off that big inverter if I just needed it once or something. Especially during the night when I didn't want to run the generator. But point being, with this pigtail, then I could run an extension cord out to a generator or my inverter, and I could run the furnace. Now that doesn't mean your generator has to be running the entire time it's plugged into this furnace. Usually I'd run my furnace right before I went to bed, and then as soon as I got up in the morning, I'd run it again. And depending if the sun was out or not, I could almost get through all day without running it. So twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day was all I needed. So I just fire the generator up to run it that long. Getting the extension cord out of your house can be tricky. Luckily in my house I have a vent I was able to run it out of. But you don't want to be opening a window or a door to get an extension cord out of, so you got to consider how to do that too. You might want to ask your electrician if you decide to install the switch to figure out how to wire that plug outside of your house or something to hook up your generator. So that's another option, and you know, for me, I felt like it was definitely worth it. Like I said, there's places where electricity does not go off very often, so it may not be worth your expense of having that done. The biggest problem with making a video like this is those who need to watch it probably are not going to seek out this information, and those who already know this information, well, you already know it, so there's no need for them to watch the video. So if you watch this video, maybe you can spread the word, and maybe those who don't know how to be prepared can be prepared. And also, I'd like to encourage people to become 2 things with these videos, but they almost contradict each other. First off, people need to be more self-reliant. It seems like we've gotten to the point where we expect machines to do everything for us, or we expect somebody else to do everything for us. And we really need to learn how to do things ourselves and how to keep yourself alive. But on the other hand, it's very important to know your neighbors, get together with your neighbors, pool your resources. When you have a group of people pooling their resource, there's a lot more skills, there's a lot better chance of surviving, just everything goes much better. You don't necessarily have to have a common food cache or common supplies, but you need to be in contact with each other. You need to know who your neighbors are. You need to be able to support each other, but you also need to be able to do these things on your own.